Hey, what's up, guys? So the sweet taste of victory is fresh on my taste buds, on my tongue, and as a result, I think now is a good time to talk about the tactics. We'll talk a little bit later, I think, about what happened with the transfer season, but I do want to talk about these tactics first and sort of what the idea is behind them. I have a series. I'm actually not sure if by the time this is released, if it's going to be complete or not, but I do have a series over on my blog. You can check out the link down in the description that talks about these tactics and sort of what the thinking was behind this. So as you'll remember from last season, we had a lot of problems, especially in the back, with giving up too many goals. And I started to go around looking and trying to figure out what we could do to try to prevent that from happening. And I realized that after a while, that one of the problems that I had came here with the defensive shape. So I had these guys down with the defensive line that was like way down here, much lower. We have changed here to a much higher defensive line. The reason why is because we want to have a sweeper keeper in the back. We want to make sure that we have defenders who are focused on defense. We might be better off with sort of like a combination of a stopper and a cover. I've also thought about putting a libero in the middle. There are all sorts of different things that we can do that we might play around with this season, depending on what happens. We knew that we needed a better goalkeeper, so we got Fatu, who's probably one of the best goalkeepers on the islands. Absolutely incredible player, a current international, and it's kind of amazing that we were able to just go over to Samoa and get this guy. The idea behind having three in the back like this was to try to give a little bit more protection here. So my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that you want to have a sweeper keeper if you have a back line that's up higher, because the sweeper keeper will come over and will gather up anything that is sort of in this area when your defense is a little bit higher, and will prevent them, hopefully, from getting those lumping balls over the top of the defense that so often will break down this type of setup. Additionally, we wanted to have wing backs. I decided to have wing backs instead of wingers. I have them both on supporting roles because I would like to have them involved in the attack, but there is an argument that you can make that maybe we should think about doing instead some sort of like defensive wing back, and have them stay maybe a little bit deeper. I'm also willing and open to any sort of suggestions that anybody might have on that front. If we are in trouble, that's one of the changes that we might make. All right, as always, you kind of build this up from the back. I decided to go with 4 men in midfield, though the shadow striker is probably another striker, Lingwanda, who really probably should be a striker, fits in very, very well in that role. Excellent Taiwanese player, and he is only 18 years old, and he's easily one of the best players, I think, on this team right now, and has played incredibly well in our preseason. But before we talk too much about this, we want to talk over here a little bit about what's going on in the midfield, right? So we do want a segundo volante. This is in part because I've had a lot of experience with him. You might remember, I don't remember which save it was anymore, but there was a save, may have been the NBN save, where we had 2 segundo volantes because of the tactic we were using. I like playing with it a lot because the game kind of has a hard time dealing with this position, especially if he's attacking, because he's coming straight out of the defense and kind of running the ball up forward, oftentimes with the ball himself, as you can see down here, and is sort of anchoring and spearheading that attack. That's definitely the sort of thing we want to see coming out of midfield, and we want to see this guy moving forward to give the opposing defense something more to worry about. Other guy here, Twala Lele, in this position currently is the defensive midfielder who we're also trying to use maybe to help prevent these attacks. So sort of the idea here is to build, it's not really sort of like a high or a low block or anything like that. What we're trying to do, though, is we're trying to win things in midfield that are coming here on our end as much as we possibly can. Now, the old adage is always you want to have a playmaker and you want to have only one, and so we have one playmaker here playing on this side. We could switch these sides. If we switch these around, we'd probably have to switch these 2 around as well. The view from the touchline version of this tactic, the thing that I was looking at a lot when I was trying to decide what to do, had this wing back actually on attack. Instead, we're just going to have 1, 2, 3 players in attack and these other players in supporting roles. It's worked so far. It's worked pretty well in the preseason. I'm not going to change it as long as it's working. There's not really too much theory that goes into that. Other than that, I don't want to have too many players thrown forward in the attack. Again, because I worry a lot about the defense. I want to make sure we're not giving up a lot of goals. Then, of course, we do have the advance forward up here. Remember, last season we did have Maile playing as a poacher for a while. I decided to change to the advance forward after reading about the role of a pressing forward and an advance forward, and decided that advance forward would probably be the best thing to do for now because he could, play a little bit further back. when needs be, and try to cut off balls and be a little bit more involved with the team than just a poacher who sort of sits up there, right? Because the idea with the poacher is that you kind of want like a poacher and a target man, a target forward together, maybe a support target forward, and then a poacher up there waiting for the pass from him. I thought about it. I decided, no, we're probably better off sort of with this sort of setup. Now, the idea here and the real philosophy behind this is that we want to hold on to the possession as much as possible. We want to be winning the possession battle in every match, and we want to stop these stupid passes that go over everybody's head and, is not a pass to anybody, and it ends up getting us in trouble. So because of that, we tell them we want much shorter passing. We have slowed down the tempo. Now, we could change this if we want, but we want to control the game as much as we can, but we don't want to waste time, and that's kind of what helps. I did change this so that we're only playing out of the defense. Instead of playing wide like we were last time, we're going to play narrow, so we're going to try to use our dominance there in the middle of the pitch. We were doing this before, work ball in the box, lower crosses. Tell them to dribble a little bit less and instead pass the ball first, which is what we really want to see. We're getting about 400-something passes a game. At least we were in the friendlies leading up to the beginning of the season. When it comes to playing in transition, we do want to do the counter press, which works very, very well in Football Manager and counter. It's kind of odd to see a team with a slow pace that's doing a counter press, but that's the way that we get the ball and keep control of the ball. It's also a little bit odd to see the goalkeeper distribute quickly, but that's really what we want him to do. And we want him to distribute to the center backs as much as possible. I would prefer him not to distribute to any of these flanks, but it kind of makes me. So there you have it. And distribution type, we want him kind of to take short kicks, I think, is probably what we want to do. I don't know if this part is really necessarily that important or not. And then, as I said before, out of possession, we do want that much higher line of defense, and we do want a high line of engagement. The reason why you want that higher line of defense, by the way, is mostly so you can make sure your defensemen are hooking up with your midfielders, and then we want a high line of engagement so those midfielders who are down here can hook up with these ones up here. That's really the idea, right? Try to get the players a little bit more sandwiched together and make sure that they're away from our half of the pitch so that we can move the ball forward in a positive manner instead of keeping the ball in our own half and maybe making a mistake. If we make a mistake over here or over here, I don't care. I care a lot if we make mistakes over here. You'll remember the real big match against who was it? Was it Ilau and Tomata? I can't remember who our opponent was last season, near the very end of the season, where we had the left back who made a huge mistake right here on this part of the pitch that basically gave a goal to the opposition. We don't want that to happen anywhere. We don't want anybody to be in this position if we can help it. And we want to do everything we possibly can to avoid that. So there you go. That's sort of what the idea is behind this. It's not really a gegenpress. There are pressing elements, but we're not like trying to run everybody out. The intensity is not really that high. Our familiarity is pretty high, which is nice. And what we really want to do is encourage more teamwork among this team and less players who are trying to do everything on an individual level. Now, you do see that we do have some American Samoa players left on the squad, but we're not going to have many, and definitely not for long. American Samoa players are not quite as good as they might be cracked up to be. So anyway, there you go. That's sort of what the tactic is looking like at the moment. And, we'll see what happens with our next match. Hopefully we'll be able to have some success. I don't know. It's always difficult to say how it's going to work, but we'll do the best that we can. And I think that if we keep things going the way that we did this last match, I think we're going to be just fine this season. For the sake of, for those of you who may be curious, when we look at the competitions page and we look at the season preview, we are hands-on favorites to win. In fact, 13-8 odds are incredible. It would be really, really surprising if we were not able to win in the end. Although I will note that it looks like some of these other teams have come up with players who are pretty good. This guy, for example, Chad Jobo, was a guy that we picked up and then got rid of. So apparently he's the best player in the league, I guess. I don't know. I can't see exactly why I got rid of him, and that's because a lot of that information is gone from me because I'm a new manager. So here's another one, Joseph Ndo, who's another one that we picked up and then got rid of right away, and we got rid of him because of that inconsistency. We can go down here and you'll see a whole bunch of these guys who came into this league from us, from like the Cameroon or whatever, and came in, and then we got rid of him right off the bat. Bisala played for us actually last season a little bit, and then we ended up getting rid of him. So there's a lot of guys like that we'll see around, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, I think, tomorrow afternoon. I'll talk with you then. Bye.